Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBox TV's podcast 427. I'm Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, along with, do I have a helper?
Mackenzie Miller.
Mackenzie Miller. You got, oh, okay, Halloween candy?
I think I have a cavity.
You probably have two or three. Is there anything you want to say before I get the podcast started? There's no Johnny V tonight, so it's you
I
or
think I have a
not.
cavity.
All right. Are you good?
No.
All right, everyone. That's Mackenzie. She's going to go to bed right now.
Uh-huh.
That's exactly it. Welcome in, everybody. This is podcast, as I said, 427. Johnny V is in Florida. However, from my house, I'm going to see if I can run the show myself on a little bit of a slightly limited resource capacity. And I think with that, if I click a button or two, I'm going to work on this, guys. If I click on this, I think I'm going to immediately get right to our very first guest, Luke Samson. Luke, how we doing tonight, buddy?
Hey, doing well, Terry. How are you?
I am well, and but not nearly as well as you. And if it takes just 2 seconds, I want to triple check with the world that we are all good to go. It looks like I see some comments rolling in. So if you guys could just give us a super quick audio video check. Looks and sounds great. That's all I needed to hear, Jeff. Thank you. All right. So again, Luke Samson, our guest. Luke, Lake Marshall. I don't have the tournament name in front of me. Sorry. It's a long one. Do you know the full tournament name, including the title
Knowledge.
sponsor?
I know it starts with knowledge. That's about all I know.
Let's get this right. Let's get this right. The Knowledge Management presents the Lake Marshall Open, powered by Prodigy. You are now the champion of that. So I expect you to sign everything with all of that with a little
All right.
1X.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I'll have to get it figured out by then.
Again, congrats. Let's quickly talk a little bit about the fact that we're here in a Silver Series, but it's for the 2023 campaign. Okay, does that feel weird to you? Does that matter to you?
It definitely matters to me, but I didn't think it was any different than any other event that I approached throughout the year.
Okay, now speaking of events, talk to the world, and this couldn't be more timely. I mean, you're your own PR hype man clearly here, because there's going to be a docu-series on Disc Golf Network featuring you, from what I've heard.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you could not have nailed this any better, except for maybe winning the exact weekend before yours releases. But talk a little bit about the tour here in 2022 for you.
Well, I started off decent. I came in 10th in Las Vegas. That was the first event for me in the Pro Tour. I had played a bunch of events before, just getting warmed up. I was on your coverage in Arizona twice, actually. And then kind of fizzled more. That's, I guess I would say that. I mean, I had some good finishes, not great finishes. I was definitely adjusting to living with people. I had been living out of a car. Yeah. So I've been living out of a minivan, and that was honestly almost a little easier. But I liked living out of the RV because, there were so many times before where I'd just be signing autographs after a round, and I'd be like a kid and his dad came and watched me, and here I am living out of a minivan, and the dad clearly wants his kid to aspire to, pursue something like this. And I'm over here pretty much just not barely getting by, but, it's not like what people draw up to be the most luxurious lifestyle.
No, and I see what you're saying. And so there's almost like a maybe a pride factor there, but at the same time, but at the same time, you're showing the work, the grind, like the hustle is real. And even though disc golf is exploding, we're some people are start earning their stripes, and I feel like that's kind of the position you're in. Is that a fair statement?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, for sure.
Now, so when I look back to some of your finishes, like you said, I saw you at the Shelley Sharp, also saw you over at Maricopa, and then Wintertime Open, Las Vegas. What has it been like knowing the year that's ahead of you, and any year that's ahead of you, knowing how stiff the competition has gotten, and what it's like to try and compete just for a paycheck week in and week out?
It's kind of nice knowing ultimately that like I reminded myself that this week that it doesn't really. We're just playing frisbee. You know, that's all we're really doing. Reminding myself of that is really important. And like at the end of the day, I got a loving, supporting family, which is huge. And if I let's just say 2023 goes down and I come in dead last every single event, you know, at the end of the day, I have a great sponsor too that I would monetarily be okay.
Mhm.
And my parents own all this land in Tennessee. I could always just go out there and just live in the land. You know, like worst case scenario, like that's how I feel. So like, you know, if
Yeah.
it doesn't go down, it doesn't go down. But that's so I'm not afraid of that not making it, you know, like ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you have a backup plan and
Yeah.
you have you have options, and that's good to know that disc golf isn't just an absolute life or death. Although obviously it's been a passion for you. Since we haven't really talked to you much here, what give everyone kind of a brief overview of your start in the game.
Uh, well, first time I played it, I was about second grade. I played with my neighbors and my brothers. Played maybe 7 or 8 times before high school. After that, so like all the way up to 8th grade, maybe 7 times. Then in high school, I started playing a lot of different leagues. Like there was a league that was by my house. I like walked it. I was playing the course, and they're like, "Wow, you got to come." And there was that. I remember that first time I was at that league. It was just a life changing experience. I mean, it was as simple as it was, but it was like these guys could putt out of their mind, and but I could throw it pretty good. And like I didn't know any of these terms, but it was just a really good experience, and I was hooked for sure. And then, I mean, I could go into a lot of long details about like what led me to be where I am. I mean, I don't know how detailed you want me to go, but
Well, I also don't want to ruin too much for this docu series that's going to be coming out as well. That I think probably gets into a lot of that.
yeah, they
But
do.
essentially, and again, if we're kind of going a little bit brief and high level, essentially, you got started. You're from like a northern Chicago suburb, northern
Yep.
Illinois,
Mhm.
and you also then have some very athletic prowess and background. Expand on that just a little bit.
Well, high school, I played lacrosse. Before that, I played baseball all through since I was like 5 years old. Um, Went to college, dropped out of college, went to a different college, dropped out of that college. Um, but when I dropped out that second time, I had this realization I was going to play baseball and disc golf. And it was this big realization I had. And it was a life changing realization. It's like I just dropped out that next day of school, like, and built a mound in my parents' backyard and trained for a year, walked on to the college, got a scholarship to a different school, went there while doing all of this, playing disc golf every single day. Because I knew that after I was done playing baseball, I was going to play professional disc golf. And so I was playing every day. I had putting. I had a routine. It wasn't just me playing baseball. Like,
Hmm.
and then that's why I could throw lefty, because I could throw like
Okay.
I was going to the field to throw righty, and then as a baseball player, we're supposed to go through these medicine balls at a wall with our hips moving counterclockwise, if that makes sense.
Yep. Okay. Yeah.
So that would get your right-handed hips moving quicker towards home plate. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So that's why I do the lefty, so I could just get those hips moving quicker. You know, but yeah. So
Uh,
instead of going to the gym,
well, and I was just gonna say
that didn't do
how
that.
how much did you feel like, even to this day, how much do you feel like developing your golf game from the other side is helpful to you? I mean, how
Uh,
much energy and effort do you put into that right now?
I do it every day,
Okay.
and I do it because one, I get really tight on the one side. I think everybody out here is getting tight. You know how many shots I've thrown right-handed for the last 4 years? I couldn't tell you how many
Uh-huh.
shots. Probably, I think that I might have the most in the planet. I think I do.
Well,
And
I was gonna say, thanks to people like Statmando, we could find all of your competitive shots, and that doesn't even count all the practice.
Yeah.
that you've been doing?
Well, I probably, yeah. I mean, I took a lot of bogeys, so I'm sure I did have a lot of strokes. But yeah,
I mean, right, as they say, it's, the funny, objective to golf is play as little golf as possible, right?
mhm.
And so it doesn't seem to make sense, but it does. Uh, um, so all of that background, and then was it ever a sell? Was it ever tough, whether it was to friends, other friends, or family, or anyone else? Was it ever tough to have that talk or that moment of, yeah, yeah, I wanna play disc golf, like, I wanna travel around the country, and I wanna play this professionally. What was that conversation like with anyone?
I didn't have. It was like I was gonna do it. I didn't have a conversation. It was never a
Okay.
conversation. Yeah. No, it was like that moment that I told you where I decided and I stopped going and I dropped out of college. I knew like that's what I was gonna do, and
Wow.
and it wasn't gonna be anything else. Yeah.
Wow, full dedication, and so as this year goes on and on throughout the entire year here in 2022, again, I'm gonna pull up your looking along, you're cashing in most events. You miss a few, but you
Yeah.
cash more often than you don't.
The ones I've missed, I've just missed. I will say that,
Okay.
and it's very heartbreaking. Like I can't even tell you how heartbreaking it is. Yeah.
So, I'm looking down, and then if I do actually sort, I can see some of your better finishes. I look at the challenge at Goat Hill where you finished second. Wintertime, you had finished second there. And then looking at a few of the other A tiers, the Down East Players Cup, you played really well at just a couple weeks ago. You finished seventh there. How do you and then both Memorial and Vegas, you finished 10th, along with the High Plains Challenge. Out in Colorado. How do you personally assess your season? Like when you look back, maybe even before this last weekend, how do you personally look back? What are you reflecting on and what are you thinking?
That I could have done a lot better. Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what in particular? Obviously, you said you were really close to, a few times when you did miss cash. Anything, what jumps out at you is like, oh, 2023, it's obvious that blank is going to be better. What is that?
Just my concentration on every shot. That's really what I think. I've lost concentration more than a couple times. Like my pace, I think my pace has gotten a lot better, and I know that sometimes I hesitate out there. And I just like this last weekend, it was really like the two things I was thinking of was acknowledging my fears and committing to a good miss. Like those were the two things I was really thinking about a lot. And I was afraid the whole time. Like when I woke up every morning, I was like, man, like my heart, like I was nervous, and so just like kind of just acknowledging that it's okay, that you don't want to hesitate from the fear was a big thing for me. So that will be a big thing for me. And I
Fully
knew how,
owning and embracing, it sounds like.
and yeah, I mean, yeah, there's so many things that I could fix. There really are.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
there
mean,
really are.
tell me how exciting that is though. Like here you are, you're kind of basking in the idea of, man, there are so many opportunities. I feel like you could also, write the first couple of chapters of your book, but here you are basking in those missed opportunities or those those things you can change up. What is that exciting? Does that
Yeah,
push you even harder?
yeah. I mean, that was like a big thing for this week because like I didn't, because I could have went home after the USCGC. I really could have not played these
Mhm.
events, and it's just like it was almost like a question, like like what am I doing, like like, and I have something to prove still, obviously, and so I don't know. What was the question again? Sorry.
Just what you think of those opportunities. The fact that you had a decent season, but yet you're still saying, "Man, there are so many things to fix."
Yeah.
I guess just think ahead to what does a great season look like for you? Where is
I
your
want to be
ceiling?
number one. Number one is what I want to be, obviously, and I know that I'm not going to stop. I think this is just if this was my highlight of 2023, it'd be a huge letdown. That's all I know.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. And now, we all know we could always have a conversation as to what ratings do or don't mean. Clearly, they're a snapshot of some degree. We can argue how accurate they are or whatever. But you come into this event, this last event, rated 1017. That's 26 points behind Chris Dickerson. Chris, clearly, who's one of the most winning, percentage players that we've seen, and clearly one of the most elite of our players right now. And to know you didn't squeak it out on the final hole. I mean, you won by 4, and you ultimately got him by what, 6 during the final round. What's that like? And you could take out Chris's name and insert a Paul or a Calvin or a Ricky or any one of our killers, but what was that like, knowing you have such a formidable competitor in Chris?
It makes it that much sweeter. It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really does. It would have not been as sweet. Chris is great, and that's kind of like the whole, Alan Wagner. I don't know if you know who he is, but
Yep, sure do.
he sent me a message and he said, hold them under the water until you don't see any bubble, till the bubbles stop coming up. And so
That's graphic.
yeah,
Alan.
it was. But I'll tell you one thing. Like, I didn't know. I thought that I was tied for the longest time when I had it by 1. And I was really just keep on going. And I was like, I was I've just straight blew stuff away before. Like, blew it away.
Okay.
Like, I've given it away. I'm not to say that. Like, the people earned it, whoever I lost to. I'm not trying to say that. But like, I've done some really bad things late in the game, and I just knew that could always happen. It could happen in 18. You know how much water's on that hole? What happens if I just all of a sudden got the yips? So I was never gonna give up. I was like, I didn't believe it till like it went in, and so that was a big thing.
And that was kind of going to lead to my next question, which is like, what made this one different? You said you've had opportunities in the past. What made this one different? Was there a mindset? Was just destined to be your weekend? But what made things different coming down the stretch for you? How do you keep it together?
Like during the stretch of that final round, or during the stretch of my season?
Well, throughout the I was gonna say the final round, even the entire final day, final round kind of thing. How do you,
Yeah, I just felt like, I've came so far. Like, I don't, like, it would have been all for nothing if I didn't just keep going, like I didn't come this far just to come this far is how I felt. That saying? Yeah. And like, there was definitely times where I was like, man, this is your time. Just stay in it. Like, don't, that's how I felt. And then I remember on 16 when I threw a really good drive and Chris didn't. And I was like, man, like I did shed a tear right then and there, but I was like, quit crying, dude. You're not, like, this is not over. Like, I just one little tear, like, you need it. And then you're sure not going to cry when they give you the trophy, if that's the case. And I just remembered, like, being thankful for the people that got me here. That's all I was trying to think of. Like, who am I going to be thankful for if they ask me? And that's all I was thinking. Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I don't. I've been. That's fine when I'm criticized for it or not. I don't care. I'm an emotional guy, and there's a lot of things. I mean, probably my biggest one was watching Paige Bjerkes tap in 2018 and seeing everything that such a consummate professional and a young role model can be for my daughters. But I could say the same of any of our younger generation, and really players of any age. Everybody's got a story. You happen to be a young player that's driven, that's on the upswing, and seeing other players that maybe are on the tail end of their career, and you might be seeing their biggest final win, so to speak, or whatever. Everything in between. I've got no problems with that. Those emotions. Do you consider yourself emotional? And what was that like to hold that back?
I'm a little emotional from time to time, but to hold it back, I still kind of am. I still feel like I haven't let it fully set in. Maybe I haven't spent enough time. Like, when I go driving home, I think when I'm gonna really feel it, But like, because I still gotta. I'm trying to so another big thing that made this one awesome was that Anders. I don't know if you remember Anders Shalstrom.
I believe we have talked, and I know we're also supposed to talk about some Castoplast ordering I need to do. So this is all kind of a perfect lead into that. But go ahead.
Well, he's coming to Myrtle Beach, where I'm at right now, on Thursday.
Okay.
And so, because he's meeting us, he's flying in from Sweden. He's meeting the three of us, meeting his representation for the first time. So, like, it was like I felt a lot of pressure. Like, it's like, man, he's invested a lot into me. And so it was like, going into this event, like I really felt like I needed to show out. And that was so I might have to credit it towards him because he's really helped me.
I mean, you're gonna have Tom Hanks as Tom McGuire right next to you saying, "Show me the money," right? Contract season. I mean, again, your timing
I have
was
a 2-year
impeccable.
contract. Yeah, I have a 2-year contract with him, so
Okay,
I will
okay.
be with him for. I'm Castblast for sure for 2023.
I love it. So let's talk about that. Obviously, our Castoplast fans are like a lot of our, upcoming companies that continue to push forward and do big things. It sometimes feels almost cult-like, this underground following that then gets bigger and bigger, and then next thing you know, it's right there in every conversation. I had the pleasure. I saw Castoplast being made when I was over in Sweden earlier this year.
I saw the
And
stories.
and boy, like the excitement that came over me of seeing, because they've gained not only clearly market share, but they're gaining a lot of favor in a lot of ways. So talk about, you just said you're sponsored through next year, but talk about that relationship and maybe how it came about, and I'll say just like why Castoplast? How does that come about?
Well, so I had been doing this for I think it was 2 years, where I was living out of a Toyota Echo. And
Mm-hmm.
then I totaled this Echo on the way to the Dynamic Discs Open the first year that ESPN was covering it. Do you remember that?
Yep. Oh yeah.
And,
Yep.
yeah, and
2020.
then
Yep.
so my life got turned upside down, and I bought this car, but I dropped out of the tournament. Like, ended up just doing part-time work, working regionally in Tennessee, and finishing the year out, and then played a whole year. And then at the end of that year, I reached out to some companies, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
this is I like wasn't 1,000 rated yet. I had made a couple video coverages, but only one like a B tier or something like that, maybe. And Anders was the most positive response for sure. I had a few others,
Mm-hmm.
but Anders was like, "What can we do to help you?" Is really what he said, and that was awesome. And I've always wanted, like, I don't. I thought, I mean, it'd be cool to be like them. I don't know. Like, I don't know. It'd be sweet to be a part of their company. That's all.
Well, and maybe you're being coy or humble a little bit, in that when you look at Castoplast, who's making their name, there's something to be said about being a bigger fish in a smaller pond, and with your growth and your potential, to be kind of a face or one of the main guys. I mean, of course, we have a ton of great sponsors and a ton of great companies, but you can kind of get lost in the mix. You can be a great player and not feel like you're, just as valuable as the featured what's the word I'm looking for in franchise player. You may not be that franchise player in some of these really big companies. And so to show that commitment, that growth, and that experience with a company that's coming up more so, that's got to feel good, right?
Yeah, it feels good. It really does. And they put a lot of trust in me too. And like, I mean, they've treated me so well. So it's like, I couldn't be happier. I really couldn't be happier.
So with all that, what does 2023 kind of look like for you? As I looked at your schedule from this last year, you obviously mix in, A tiers along with elite series and majors and everything in between. You had 40 events. One or two of those might have been a league night or something, but you had roughly 40 events on your schedule.
Mhm.
What does 2023 look like?
So I'm probably going to hit it just as hard. I don't know
Okay.
exactly what I'm going to do with. I've decided I need to go solo. Whether that's
Okay.
me getting my own thing or whatever happens, I'm going to find out this week. But I'm going to do that. And then actually, Ricky Wasaki just reached out to me and invited me to go live with him and train this offseason in Arizona. So
Okay.
I feel like, I'd be stupid not to do that. I don't know. Yeah. So I don't know if there's tournaments involved with that, but I do want to play. Obviously, I want to go. If you're going down to Phoenix, I'm trying to be there. I'm definitely trying to be there.
I'm just saying, yeah. There's coverage. I like getting over to that neck of the woods, and I love covering events. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you going to be at the Cold Turkey this year?
Yeah. So, and thanks for the plug. No, yeah, this weekend, at the end of this month, the Cold Turkey 17 is taking place. It's an event. I think I've been there for 16 or 15 out of the last 16. The one year I couldn't make it, I was graciously brought to Australia to do a bunch of coverage. So that was the one time I missed, and we'll be there running it. I saw that you're signed up, so you're going to be right in southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, not too far from your home stomping grounds. And I saw that you're signed up. We're gonna have to make sure we get get a camera out there at least for the second round. That's the plan.
Nice.
So so hitting it hard, at one point I'll quickly say that Wysocki made a comment like he might be headed to Florida. And then that was a few weeks ago. And then, as recently as the last day or two, he's like, oh, halfway back to Arizona. And that's clearly where he's going to be, as you just alluded to. What does that mean for you to be in such a place, have such an opportunity to train with, the likes of Wysocki, train/relax even? But what does that mean to you to be heading to a southwestern state, warm climate, ready to play golf? What will that do for your game?
It's just I'm only keep the ball rolling. I'm trying to go up, so they can't stay stagnant. So that's all I gotta say about that. You can't play good. I've done it before, practicing off seasons in Illinois. It is brutal. It is so brutal. You don't want to do it.
This dates me a little bit, but I remember Avery Jenkins always talked about when our seasons weren't quite as crazy, but playing all year long around the country and then going back to Ohio. And it's like, oh, now you're, if you go play, you're in 6 layers of clothes. You're worried about slipping on a tee pad, just all of those things that may not be truly helping your game, even though you're throwing discs in the off season. So I like that. Quick question. What's your favorite, where do you, not that we're getting the stalkers out there, but where do you find yourself most likely practicing when you're out in Arizona? Is Vista the obvious answer?
Vista, what's that one that Castro runs that league at? You know what I'm talking about?
I do, and I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but I know it's not Buffalo
Thunderbird.
Ridge.
It might be Thunderbird. No. I don't know.
But anyway,
I'll definitely be out there for sure.
Okay. Yeah. There may not be a ton of trees. Someone just asked on the board, what Arizona golf's like. There's not a ton of trees, but hey, working your discs in 60, 70, and 80 degree weather for a few extra months doesn't hurt whatsoever, right?
No, definitely not. That extra
what does training look like for you? Give me a typical day. Let's fast forward 1 month. It's December 1st. You're in Arizona. You wake up. It's a Wednesday morning. What do you think that Wednesday will look like?
Well, I'll tell you right now, if Ricky ain't doing squats with me, I'm doing squats.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're gonna be dragging Ricky to the gym, or is this all?
No, I just don't know. No, I just know squats. Everybody knows squats is what you gotta be doing. I feel like everybody knows. I don't know if that's true, but
no, I like it.
Definitely just working out. Definitely, I'll be throwing lefty. I don't know if Ricky will be, but I will be.
Okay.
And obviously, a lot of putting.
Yep.
And eating healthy. Apparently, probably if I'm with Rick, I guess I'll be jumping in some cold water, I guess, from time to time. But
a couple of ice baths.
Super
probably.
Smash Bros. I know he thinks he's pretty good at Super Smash Bros. So we'll be doing some of that. But just really just honing the craft. That's what I was, this is kind of new to me. He just asked me the other day. He congratulated me and was like, "Hey, man, I'm just getting this place here in Arizona. So I'm sorry if I leaked that to the world, but I don't know if you wanted people knowing that, but." And it was I felt really awesome that he thought of me and wanted me to go out there. So my plans beforehand were just to be in Tennessee. I was really thinking I needed to go to Tennessee where my parents have this property, and I was going to just get strong, run up the hills.
Sure.
That's what I was going to do, a lot of running up the hills backwards. I think that's huge because it gets the front side of your legs. And if you can stabilize the front side of your legs, that's huge. And obviously throwing a bunch, and just also sure. I wanted to build like some sort of earth house out there at some point, because why not, dude? That's kind of what I felt. So maybe I'll get started on that. But okay. Like I said though, I'd be a fool not to go trading with with Ricky in Arizona. So
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like that's becoming, of course, disc golf is growing, and not only the opportunities are growing, but that's just becoming more and more of a logical step for our competitors, whether that's a Florida or a California or Arizona. I mean, those are some of your most popular, of course, sometimes Texas, but being in a place where, yeah, you're not concerned if it might be -7, when you step outside that day. It makes perfect sense. Is there one particular thing? I know you just said what you're gonna work on, but is there one thing that you're like, "Hey, by February 1st, here's the one thing that absolutely needs to be either addressed or fixed or perfected." Maybe it's
two,
good, but
I
okay,
could think
2?
of two main things that I think my game's lacking. Sometimes in my putt, I've been told by a lot of people, and I could feel it sometimes that the timing from my lower half to my upper half is not synchronized.
Okay.
So I've been really concentrating on like getting to a slow paused spot and then bringing my weight forward more so. And then thank you, Andrew Fish, for that.
Mhm.
And then I stopped power gripping. So I only fan like modified fan, and I know like there's been times where I just would throw it so much further with the power grip, and I just if I could just channel that, I know I'm gonna be like AB has really impressed me, and I know that I could be doing more, and I want to be I just want to be throwing harder and further. So that's one thing I want to be doing.
Okay. And so with that, I guess the follow-up to would be, what does your distance look like now? And,
I
and do you feel
mean,
like you mirror or mimic, is your form like anyone else's that you can think of right now?
um, no, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's hard to tell when you're the one doing it. It really is.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know if I'm like anybody out there, but
Okay.
maybe you
And
could say. But I think that yeah, I think that my form could be better. I think I don't look
okay.
away. I think that I don't look away a lot, and
Mhm.
I know that if I look away more, that's when I'll be throwing harder as well. So,
Okay. And what do you top out at for distance right now?
oh, well, at the world's distance competition, I think I threw like 560. At
Mhm.
Vegas, I think I threw 630. Um, I think I could probably throw about over 600 on a day, any given day. That's what I
Sure.
think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, world's conditions, for instance, I remember weren't perfect for a lot of
No.
people. And distance competitions are also like somewhat of a mixed bag, in terms of the conditions you may or may not have that are ideal, but also that whether you have a fairway you have to hit
Yeah.
like at Worlds or whether, you're throwing a golf shot. Those are all very different
Yeah.
for you out there.
That's another
And
thing, the golf shot. Like it's been so long that since I just tried to go out in there and ripped it. Like I've only been playing. I play a tournament every single weekend for like the last 3 years. Like I'm only playing these golf lines. Like I need to maybe come away from that a little bit. Get it high in the air on Anheuser. Like I never do that. Like I
okay.
need to try that. I need to try that. So
Yeah, I mean, you watch Double G. I mean, for example, clearly what he's doing, he's often putting like katanas up on the craziest angles and then getting him to, so high. I think he throws as high as I can throw far, which is just disgusting
yeah,
how high he can get a disc up and then watching it all, just, there's world championship technique when it comes to throwing, distance setting, world distance records.
mhm.
And, those definitely tie together, which is, awesome. And does something like a world distance title, does that is that even in your scope of something you'd ever concern yourself with?
uh, I think I would. I think if I tried really, really hard, I think I could do that. I do.
Okay.
If I worked on some things, but I think that it's for me, it's more important to try to win for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, some of those additional things, it's great to be known for them and it's great to have that power, but just even if you could throw 800 feet whenever you wanted, if that doesn't mean you're winning or you're on the podium every weekend,
Mhm.
that only pays so well. Let's put it that way. So specifically, then let's talk about, especially for our Castoplast fans and family out there. What is it that works really well for you, in your bag in terms of what you're throwing?
Lutz, Keg Z, Berg, Reco X, Stall.
Okay.
Those are my main ones for sure. I throw those
Okay.
all. Oh, yarn. Sorry, and yarn.
Uh, how as a quick side note to that, how fun is it or difficult is it to always be sharing these names with people, whether it's me and as announcer
It's
or introducing it to a brand new player? Is it at all challenging?
Yeah, it's funny because they'll get it right, and then 3 minutes later they'll just say something completely different, and they're like, "Oh yeah, yeah." Connor O'Reilly. Actually is man. He's surprised. He's a great commentator, and I'm not
Uh-huh.
just saying that because he did it on mine, but he's got and he used to talk, but he he mispronunciate a little bit, and I remember telling him like, no, like this is how you say it, but then he said it something differently. But it's hard to say in the yarn when the yarn came out, whatever you want to say, like
Mhm.
calling it that, like it took me forever. Like I was like jarn, but it's all good.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, I'm certainly in that category. I feel like sometimes I nail it because I'm like, oh yeah, I remember how this is pronounced, and then you say it 6 times later, and you're like, and then you start second guessing yourself as an announcer, or you're doing play by play or whatever. It's very easy to get yourself off base. So if I ever had a pro tip, and nobody needs to listen to me ever, but if I ever produce any discs of any kind, they will be the easiest names. And I'm not just saying like 3-letter names like, ape, by Innova, but I never want, and then again, I guess some people may say, well, then dummy, you're not doing it right. Cause if it's always
Huh?
talked about, then, that's marketing in itself, I suppose.
Well,
But
Clash is doing pretty good. Their names are super simple.
exactly. So,
Yeah.
I mean, and things people seem to know and love pretty well. So, if somebody wants to support you as we start wrapping up here, if somebody wants to support you, what are the best ways they can go about doing it? Whether it's through social media channels or personal things or whatever, what's the best way people can support you?
All those things. You can follow me, obviously, but that's just something small. I mean, it's cool and all, but
Hmm.
really, more realistically, Disc Golf Network. Get that, so we
Hmm.
all can get. So we all get. Everybody watching. Share it with your friends. Let them know how awesome it is. That's the biggest thing. But then, second to that, go to my website and buy a disc. I mean, that'd be
Okay.
cool too. So
Let me put it in the chat. What exactly is your website?
it's SamsonDG.com. Yeah,
SamsonDG.com. I just
yeah.
put it in the chat.
SAMSON. Yeah. So no P.
Yep.
Don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
DG.
Yes. Samson, SAMSONDG.com. I just put it
Yep.
in the chat. Let me
That's it.
double check that I can put it up here. I know not everybody can put links in the chat unless you're special like me. So yes. Okay. Yeah. I see when we go out here. In fact, hey, let me get fancy on you for a second, or at least attempt. This could go sideways. So let's not get our hopes up. But I think what I can do is this would be a good opportunity actually to see if I can share. Let's do this. I think I can click here. Oh gosh, what am I doing, Miller? I think if I click this and here and Luke Samson, let's do this. And come on, there's so much I can do. Bear with me. I think this is gonna work. Let's do. All right. Let's see if we can hide
Oh
both
yeah,
of these.
that's it.
Oh, sorry. Here we go. Let's do solo. All right. So here's your website.
Yep, yep.
Real quick, only because this is um let me see. Okay. So here's your website. Yeah,
Yes,
plenty
sir.
of plastic on here. And then
Uh-huh.
I see home, shop, videos, upcoming events, Wing Project, and more.
Yep.
What's Wing Project? I'm gonna
So
click on
that
it.
if yeah, click on it. There you go. So this is I actually got the chalk bags coming in this week. They're the first part of the project. So like if you look at
Okay.
it, so Terry, I was actually thinking I could give you some money here
Okay.
because
Okay.
yeah,
I
yeah,
like this. You're my favorite new
yeah.
guest. Okay.
So for everybody that buys a product with this logo on it, $1 will be used for a cash tournament that I'm for cash add a cash to a tournament,
Mm,
and another a dollar will go towards course developments. So like I could sponsor the cold turkey with this money. You know what I'm saying?
okay. Okay. I like
So,
where
but
we're
I
going
was
with
planning,
this.
yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm thinking. Like, just something little, like like whatever it is. I only got like 100 chalk bags, so that's $100.
Okay.
And but it's just like something cool that I thought of, and then that other dollar, like at first I want to give to Squaw Creek if you've ever been out there
Yep.
before,
Yep.
and then but at some point I want to I don't know what's going to be the future's looking like. But if I actually end up getting a substantial amount of money in this thing here, put a course in Tennessee where my parents are at. So I don't know. We'll see what's
Okay.
up. But that's where I'm at. So
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I will read up more. I'll follow up and I'll take a look at it. I'm putting together players pack items right now for the cold turkey, and
nice.
yeah, we'll see if there's something that can work out for it.
Nice.
All right. Is there anything else we need to cover? I mean, I think we did a pretty good job of kind of past and past, present, and now next year. You said it's going to look pretty similar, grinding hard. Is there any particular event or swing or portion of the tour that you get especially excited about? Is there anything that's like, man, I just can't wait till June or May or whatever month? Is there?
D-Glow is I don't know why I love playing at D-Glow.
Well, you're a
course is
Midwest
amazing.
guy. You should like
Yeah.
it. That makes sense.
And so the weather's usually perfect and the course is perfect and there's usually just a crazy amount of spectators and that's awesome. And you could throw crazy big shots. Like that's what I like about it.
Okay. Now I guess I'm gonna just assume, and I apologize, I don't know off the top of my head, if I head over to your year. Whoa, don't click that. I almost lost you. If I head over to your year, let's
I didn't
type in
cash. I didn't cash
D-Glow.
there. No, I didn't cash. Oh boy. Hey,
okay, we don't have to go there. We don't have
no, you can. That's definitely fine. But I'll tell you, that was one of those tough ones. I was
as in one spot out of cash.
yeah.
One
And
stroke.
it was a about 17
Oh,
foot putt on 18 that I
no.
missed. Maybe 20 feet, but I think it was more like 17 feet.
Oh my gosh! Instead, yeah, you finished in like a 6 or 7 way tie, one stroke out of the cash. Yeah. Okay. I
Yeah.
hear you.
I
All
think
right. Well, go
I
ahead.
was gonna say I think at Waco I missed the cash by one stroke every single year, and I played it for 3 years. So if I don't make cash, Terry Miller, this year at Waco, you're gonna come have to kick my butt. All right, that's all I gotta say about that.
I mean, they call it the Beast for a reason, right? I mean, that's a tough track.
I guess, yeah, it is tough. It's very tough. I'm not trying to say it's not tough, but I mean, you're not playing the track. You're playing everybody else. Everybody knows that,
Yeah.
like. So I mean, it's whatever. It's whatever. I'm past. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Luke. Any parting shots from you here tonight? Anything else you want to share? The floor is totally yours. Whether it's sponsors or supporters or anything you want to get off your chest, the floor is yours.
Obviously, Casaplast, thank you, and everybody, thank you. Just keep if you got dreams of doing something. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many times at being where I'm at right now. Like, I've had uncountable amount of people come up to me asking me like, "Hey, how can I get sponsored by Team Casaplast?" You know what I'm saying? Like, I couldn't tell you how many people, and like the people that I seriously consider, they're like far and few between because I know what I've given up, I really, and it's like for me to put my head out for somebody else, you need to give up everything. You really do. Like, that's what I would say. You need to give up everything. Like, you need to live in a car and you need to have like a couple $100 in your bank account. That's all I gotta say. Or hopefully you have more better luck than I did and you never get down that low. But but if you're not doing it right now and you ask, I don't do it because I don't have the sponsor to support me, or I don't. It's always you that could do it. You could always do it. That's all.
I could not agree with you anymore. Everything you just said, nothing is guaranteed. Nothing's going to be given to you in life. You just have to sometimes go out and earn it and then make people recognize it later. But nobody owes you anything. So go out and grind and work hard. And you're obviously the epitome and a perfect example of doing just that. I love it. Everyone has loved your chat here and your work ethic and everything else that you've displayed tonight. No surprise there. When do you know when you're in the docuseries? When yours drops?
I think in the November 11th. I think.
Okay, so
could be wrong,
look,
but I think so.
Awesome. Luke, I can't say enough. Again, congrats on this weekend. Such a a banner win and an awesome way to start closing out 2022, hopefully riding that momentum into 2023. Awesome to hear that. I'll likely see you multiple weekends out in Arizona
Yes,
in
sir.
some beautiful weather. Also see you here in Wisconsin for the Cold Turkey that I'll be hosting at the end of the month. And man, I just can't say how proud and awesome it is to watch you grow and thrive and succeed over these last couple of years. And you definitely have the support of the entire disc golf community. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Terry. I really appreciate you.
Of course, man. All right, everyone. That's Luke Samson. He won this weekend. Looking forward to 2023 and beyond. Maybe we'll have to talk to you again after Cold Turkey or something. I don't know.
Sounds great. Yeah.
Keep going out there and keep winning. All right. Thank you, buddy. Have a good night. See ya.
Peace.
See ya. All right, everyone. Luke Samson. Just like you guys said in the board, I mean, of course, I'll echo it. He's infectious, such a positive personality, positive spirit, and clearly taking nothing for granted, knowing that you just got to go out there and earn it and work hard and focus. And I know that can be applied to literally every aspect of life, not just any kind of sporting or athletic activity. But yeah, awesome to see, awesome to hear. Thank you, Luke, for joining me. Him and I, we messaged a couple times back and forth today. So the fact that he could jump on and join me. And then with that, so here's what I'm going to do. Hoping, I mean, knock on wood, this seems to be working, folks. I'm going to go see if we can take a look at some other things that had been going on. Of course, I think what makes sense is to wrap up the event. And I think I can get all fancy just for 2 seconds. And I'm going to get off of the Great Lakes Open. We don't need to talk about that one anymore. But what I'm going to do is, if I can pull this up in just, if you give me a moment, I make no promises of me not screwing this up. But I think if I click here, and I believe, whoops, nothing like in-show producing. That's what I got to do here. I think if I click this and hit this, just kidding, this one will do it. Take a little look at what we saw this weekend by Luke and the rest of the crew. So Luke, as we just said, commanding 4-stroke victory over Chris Dickerson, taking down $2,500. We didn't talk about this, but that was his largest paycheck. Let me real quickly do a quick click here for you guys. You go here. You see the roughly 40 events he played this year for about $1,800. You click on his career wins in his very short career, and you see that prior to this weekend, his largest career win paycheck was $396 over at the Yetter version 26 back in 2019, which is an incredible course, but that's another story for another day. $396, his largest winning paycheck for back that in 2019. So $2,500. Of course, he's gotten paychecks larger than $396 other times this year, but in terms of the win, pretty incredible. This year, the $2,500, $1,150 and $1,138 at the major, $1,131 and $1,100. So he's had bigger checks, but in terms of wins, this was the largest winning check. So pretty awesome to see. 154 events and rated 1017. So let's get back to it, though. I know you guys are getting blown away. Our video viewers are blown away by all of this magic I'm sharing with you. Chris Dickerson in second, 24 under, and then he was distanced considerably in front of Evan Smith, who shot 20 under, taking home a paycheck for $1,600. Rounding out the top 5, we've got then Andrew Fish, $1,300, and Paul Ulibarri. Paul, I know, also specifically made a post saying that he was pretty happy with his year, and pretty cool to see. So congrats to him. Zach Melton in 12th, tie for 12th, has a little less hair because apparently there was a standing bet and or offer that if Macy Veladiaz could take it down, that Macy would get to shave his head. And that's exactly what we saw on social media. And Macy, your champion in a commanding fashion. It was very tight after the first round. She just had 1 stroke on Holcomb. She was all knotted up with Natalie Ryan. And then second round really distanced herself, a 994 performance. So 994, besting Hokum then, who she was down 1-2, and then she got Hokum by 7 during that particular round and got Natalie Ryan by 5, and so on and so forth. And then came out with the hottest round again in round number 3, 991 rated, a 67, and Macy Veladiaz, your champion. So congratulations. Awesome to see her pick up that victory. Not a bad paycheck at $1,300 for her Silver Series efforts. Sarah Hokum, second on the podium, tied up with Natalie Ryan. So 9 behind Macy Veladiaz. And then again, they distanced themselves from last week's guest in Holly Finley, who finished at 13 over and still got $700 for her efforts. So, and then rounding out the top 5, we'll go there. Jamie Hoover Peterson, a little bit behind that. Quite a drop actually between her and Holly, but she took home $550 for her efforts. And yes, you said it. You said it, Paul Martin out there. Macy Veladiaz with the ace. I wonder how easy that would be for me to find. Disc Golf Pro Tour. Would it be easy enough to show it out there? That's a good question. Let's click on some buttons. I can't make any promises. Of course, as as Luke mentioned, you can find all post-production out there on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. And then we're going to quickly show you guys this. I think we can pull this up and maybe mute. We're going to just keep it muted because I don't know what kind of how good I can make it work. Again, I make no promises here, people. I'm really struggling. All right. So what you're seeing is a drone preview of the 332-foot hole number 4, 332 feet downhill. And Macy Veladiaz doing some work out here on this one. I don't know if I can give you some audio. Let's see if that audio works. If it's blasting in your ears, I apologize. Zach, we got to let us play the ad. Here we go. Just on a rope. Oh. And let's be real, folks. They were calling for it 2/3 of the way there. Maybe 2/3 of the way there. They were calling for it. So pretty awesome. Then they got the solo catch cam view. Just flips up to flat and rides all the way in. Just a tad high and then drops in. So congrats, Macy Veladiaz. Nice work, of course, by our crew over there at the Disc Golf Pro Tour and making that happen. All right. Let's see if I can click this. Here we are. So that's what we saw in the Silver Series. I don't know if I actually played a little golf myself this weekend, so I was not fully in tune with disc golf taking place. Oh, I do know there's some other amazing stuff that was taking place that I wasn't part of, so it's easy for me to mentally check out just a little bit. But also this weekend we had the next gen, or should I say the National Amateur Disc Golf Championships. Let me see if I can find let me see if I can get you to the right spot. I want to announce some winners quickly. That was streamed live, I believe, on the Disc Golf Network. And real quick, as it lists 798 competitors this weekend. Actually, I wonder if I can go here and click on this. Let's see, folks, bear with me. And now, I feel like I need like 6 more screens, or I need a Johnny V. Did I just say that? Did I admit that, folks? I think if I click here. All right, next gen. Sorry. Put a $1 in the swear jar. the National Amateur Championships. Taking down Zachary Nash, again listed at 798 players. Zachary Nash, $6,500 for his efforts. Congratulations. I apologize. Is that Zylan? Nash. I'm confused. Am I this out of the loop that I don't I'm just assuming they're related, that I don't know this? If that's pure coincidence, and I apologize, I sound like an idiot here because I did not do any research, but if that's just pure coincidence, that's crazy. Anyway, second place, third place, Aiden Scott, and fourth place, Corbin Micheski, taking the fourth spot. Congrats. 222 people listed in open, or MPO, I should say. If I'm going to scroll down, and what turned out to be dramatic fashion, very dramatic fashion, Cadence Burge, if I got that right from earlier this year, Cadence Burge, your champion, defeating Emily Yale in a playoff. And I believe she was down 3 strokes going into the final hole. If somebody wants to correct me, feel free. But I believe Johnny V told me that she was down 3 strokes going into the final hole, ultimately made up those 3 strokes on a par 5, and then forced it into a playoff. And then I think the playoff went 5 holes. Is that what I heard? Again, you guys can correct me, but I believe that's what I heard. So absolutely incredible. If the story's half that true, it sounds like it was incredible. So congratulations to Cadence, taking home $1,000 for her efforts. I think we're going to for sure see Cadence, obviously in that professional realm moving forward from here on out. She had handily. No, she squeaked out Worlds earlier this year. And this year, we've seen her play in the blue division, junior girls 15 and under, junior girls 18 and under, MA3 as in men's recreational, FA1 women's advanced, regular quote unquote advanced, and then open women, and where she had turned down cash. Unbelievable. So congratulations to her. Emily Yale in second. Sheila May took third, and Rebecca Minnick looks like she took fourth. So congrats to her. And then there were some other divisions. I'm not saying you're not as important, but I mean, if we're talking about the next amateur series and the next generation and so on and so forth, MPO, FPO, guys, that's where all the glory's at. Luke knows all about that now. So congrats to all of those top competitors. I'm guessing they had a really good weekend down there. And you're talking about 798 players, I think I said. So real quick, in MP40, Jason I'm confused by that. Maybe that's just his name, but Jason took down the MP40, FP40, and I'm using these abbreviations on purpose here for a moment. Brenda Wilkin took that down in FP40. MP50 are not Armando Martinez Jr. Armando Martinez Jr. Is that the same Armando I used to play against in the 90s? PDGA number is just a couple hundred different. Oh, no. See, this is what happens when you're on the air live and you just randomly look at stuff. Is this the same? It is not. Okay. There was an Armando in the area that I played against and has within a few hundred of my PDGA. So different Armando. Becky Purifoy taking down FA50, MA60, Pete Kenny, MA2, Jason Newman. Congrats. That was a huge division at 200, more than 300 people, roughly. FA2, Daisy James. Congrats. MJ18 went to Wade and Sides. Tori Reynolds took down FJ18. Noah Patino took down MJ15. And Haley Huber took down FJ15. So there you go. congrats to all of those winners. And we have seen, whether it's like the likes of the Castorita girls or Kyle Klein or Silas Schultz, a number of our players throughout the years that have fostered or have cut their teeth in high level competition at the NADGT events have gone on to become incredible golfers in their own in the pro divisions. So congrats to all of them. All right, that leads me to I don't know if there was anything else. I apologize if there's anything else on the big time Hub City. Let's quickly take a look at our friends over at Hub City. Dylan Sepula took down handily, took down Open there. Congrats. Deanne Carey took down FPO. Barry Schultz won Masters, and so on and so forth. So congrats to all of them. That was an A tier taking place over in Spartanburg. So that was about it. And then real quick, I wanted to touch on, and I don't think any of the results are posted, so this is strictly from memory, was this weekend. Had a pleasure of playing myself this weekend, along with a little more than 100 people in the Milwaukee area, an event that was unsanctioned, called the Howler. Used to be called the Halloween Howler and is now just called the Howler. Had a little over 100 people in it. There were 36 different holes that some divisions played the original 18 at Dretzka. Some other divisions played the more of the newer course 18 that's a little bit easier. And good friends Steve Held and Mike Schwieger ended up taking that down in a playoff in the Pro Masters division. They defended their title. And myself and merch supervisor and disc golf guy shop handler Juliana Schick, we managed to finish second in the mixed division. Big shout out to Jenny and Andy, who did really well during the best shot and in the alternate shot to take it down in our mixed division. But more so than anything, I don't even care where I necessarily finished or we finished. It was fun to get out and play. That's an event I played for more than 20 years and haven't had the opportunity to play in quite some time. So it was pretty awesome to be able to get out and just be there with all our good friends and compete. So it was a lot of fun. Thanks to everyone that came out and participated. Big shout out to the Pandas, along with Mark the Shark and Johnny Rumble and the rest of the crew for making that happen. All right. That is it for events, for event news that I can tell right off the top of my head with my limited research. What I do want to talk about is something that hit the PDGA's website today. And I'm going to see if I can find a few details that were also provided. But first of all, the 2023 schedule was released, and that's pretty exciting, obviously. For those that don't know, the majors usually get set anywhere from 1 to 2 years ahead of time or somewhere in that neighborhood. They get set, elected, bids are awarded, that type of thing. And then after that, we now see Elite Series, essentially your Disc Golf Pro Tour events, and along with the rest of the majors, all get set very early. And then there is a process where, events put in to host an A tier. Those then get put on the calendar. And then after those are established and granted, then it's a free-for-all to some degree. Then everyone else who wants to run a tournament, a B tier, a C tier, whatever the case might be, then they submit to both their state coordinator and then to the PDGA in terms of filling out the rest of the schedule. So a really big day. And I know there's a ton of people that may not be touring professionals, but if you're just shy of that, you probably looked at some schedules pretty hard today, or at least started thinking about some of the places that you may or may not go. So it's pretty cool and a pretty big day for that reason. And again, schedules will continue to fill out. I know here in Wisconsin, it'll probably be hashed out for the next month. I used to be state coordinator for 15 or 18 or 20 years or whatever it was. Maybe not 20, 15 or 16 years. And in a state like Wisconsin, where we see upwards of 40 or 50 or 60 sanctioned events of varying degrees, and then have unsanctioned events, and then you have just overall favorites that may supersede any sanctioning, there's a lot to take in. And so depending on your state, depending on how busy it is, there's a lot to unpack and then ultimately pack back together to make a cohesive schedule. I do not envy anyone that is still dealing with schedules and having to put those together, uh, for the 2023 campaign. So what I'm going to quickly do. So first of all, that's announced. You can go out there. You can find that information. The PDGA. Let's see if I can even maybe. Here's a Twitter link, and then here's the complete schedule released. Oh, I think I'm going to try and get fancy and put this in the chat. All right. So if you want to click on something, you can. All right. Todd Lyon is out on the board. Says A tiers, tour standards, mileage requirements, division names, division caps. There was a lot to unpack from the PDGA today, and I was just talking about the scheduling. And now the other big thing that was talked about were the division names. And I know I just got done reading off a whole bunch of divisions to you with regard to MA1, MA2, FA, blah blah blah. The quick understanding that I got from today's post was talking about what they're calling the divisional realignment. And it says, I'm going to try and paraphrase, but periodically the PDGA engages in re-examination of member data to ensure our divisions and rating breaks are serving the membership and promoting meaningful peer level competition. The massive surge in interest, events, and membership we've seen since 2020 has necessitated that we engage in this analysis once again. In 2023, we'll make the following changes. And here's what it says. Introduce FP75, FP80, MA80, FA75, and FA80. So a lot of older divisional, clearly you have a 77-year-old mother or grandmother or aunt. And this is an argument that was had years ago and obviously has been analyzed. But a 77-year-old, especially at that age, general age, is very different than a 71-year-old. Like those 6 years, I feel like have a really big span. And that's when we saw 5-year gaps implemented many, many years ago. That's not even really up for debate. Those were implemented many, many years ago, starting at 50. So at 50, then you have a 55 category, 60, a 65 category. They're basically expanding on that. Makes perfect sense, especially as some of those divisions continue to grow and then can be offered. Now, we could all have that argument. Oh, well, there's 4 people that are between 70 and 80. Why aren't they all just playing together? Well, this is for that exact reason. And part of what I could say to that is wait till you're in that age and then see what the differences are like. And then maybe you can reassess at that point, but that's part of the logic and the reasoning behind that. And then point 2, which I feel like is a big one, says abandon the outdated and inaccurate divisional nicknames for the core divisions, advanced, intermediate, recreational, and novice, in favor of names that reflect the division's skill hierarchy and ratings requirements. Example given, mixed amateur 1, women's amateur 3. So essentially, and this could be, I think, said of so many different sports and I've only been given a few examples throughout the years. I'm sure there's countless. When you're a masters competitor in darts, that I believe that means you're one of the best. Now, we have some good masters in disc golf, but calling you a master is not indicative of your skill level. In our case, it's in fact just indicative that you're 40 and older. And well, technically turning 40, whatever, you know what I mean? So that is one of the reasons why, and we've all, and they go on to make an example as well. I think I saw it posted somewhere where they talked about Stork, PDGA 003, and here's exactly where they talk about it. So I'll just use it. They want to eliminate the nicknames. Well, advanced and intermediate may be perfectly suitable for skill level descriptions. Recreational is not a skill descriptor. And novice is not an accurate skill descriptor of the applicable ratings band. Dan Stork-Roddick, PDGA 003, one of the greatest humans that we owe so much to, That's my editorial addition there. But 003 is rated in novice, and he's about as far from a novice as can be imagined. And yes, when you're talking about somebody that found the game, helped develop the game, helped develop the rules, and helped do a million things to push disc golf to where it is today, to call him a novice, it can obviously be a little bit of feel like a misnomer. And so essentially just trying to eliminate those names and those nicknames that are being associated. And that makes perfect sense. So just to put it out there for anyone that's hopefully following along still, MA1 is still advanced. That's the code is MA1, but then the name that will get used with it is Mixed Amateur 1. MA2 used to be intermediate often, now is Mixed Amateur 2. MA3 RAC is now Mixed Amateur 3. MA4, which was novice, is Mixed Amateur 4, meaning men or women can compete in that division, and they have their various ratings caps and or implications that go along with it. And then same on the women's side. FA1 is Women's Amateur 1, so on and so forth. You guys get it, right? It does make sense. Ryan Pilcher's on the board. It makes perfect sense. If you just came into the game tomorrow and you have other sporting background and you just said, you were just given, I'm MA3, I'm MA2, I'm FP60, for female pro 60 and over. All of those to me inherently do make sense. If you're old school like me, it takes a little getting used to. There's been a lot of names thrown around. I mean, I was of the day and age when recreational MA3 was like officially just becoming a thing. And then eventually MA4 novice had just become a thing. That definitely dates how old I am in the sport of disc golf. But to get away from some of those names and to just go straight to the codes honestly, in my opinion, makes perfect sense. And I know there's a huge discussion, and again, depends how old school you typically are. Somewhat, in my opinion, even though I grew up in Wisconsin, in a very Innova-based state. Innova does not pay me to say this, although they could, but we grew up in a very Innova-based state. If you really think about it, when Prodigy came out in 2013, which I know some of you have thought about, their naming structure arguably makes the most sense. When you talk about an F7, a fairway 7. You talk about, a D1, so on and so forth. Their naming convention. Their naming convention, instead of a random animal or a random planetary or cosmic or a natural disaster like like we see by the shockwave or whatever else, or the scientific draw that's put on all of your MVP discs, like those are all fun names, but they absolutely mean nothing to what a disc could or should or might do for the most part. If I hand you a resistor, or I hand you an envy, or I hand you an ape or a comet, you should have no idea what that disc is going to do. No idea. If you were brand new, hey, hi, I just got introduced to disc golf last week. Cool. You got to put a disc in a basket. Yep. Here's 6 discs. And you've never been to a website. Here's 6 discs with these names. Tell me what these discs do, or what would you guess they are? You'd have no idea. And nor really should you, because they've been just naming schemes and conventions throughout these years that they've stuck to, and it's all part of the branding. And I get all that. I'm not arguing with it, but if you think of it logically, someone that tells you, has an abbreviation that's a fairway, and and you could argue what the 1 through 6 or the 1 through 7 or whatever the numbers are, but then it's a XG 400 whatever. It makes plenty of sense. It's just interesting to watch this fight year after year for those that really embrace it and those that don't. And clearly, there's plenty of excellent Prodigy players, and I think Prodigy's doing just fine. But for someone like me, when they introduced themselves, it felt weird. But here we are, 9 years later. My feelings don't matter. They never have. Anyway, well, I don't know where I got off on that rant. That side note. I don't think it was a side note, but also one of the other major changes, if I can find it, because I don't want to misquote it, even though I'm good at stuff like that, um, is that MA40 is the only one that went down in terms of a pro playing amateur in terms of a ratings cap from 935 to 920, making it harder for pros to play AMs. All other divisions went up, making it easier for pros to play AM. And here's how this matters. And Todd or somebody in the chat yell at me if I'm about to get this wrong, but my quick understanding is this. I'm gonna use some extreme examples just to drive the point home. You just start playing. You play in 5 tournaments. You are have quickly acquired and earned a rating of 1010. 1010. First 5 tournaments, next thing you know, you're already 1010. You can play in MA1 if we're talking amateur levels. You can play in MA1. Let's say you're 50 years old. You can play in MA50. You could also play in MA1. MA1 is kind of like the open division of amateurs, for lack of a better phrase, of all amateurs, regardless of your age. MA50 is 50-year-olds that are that can have any rating, assuming they haven't ever cashed. Okay, so if, for instance, you're playing MA50, you've got to 1010, you can continue to play MA50, there's no problem. The next weekend, you go play in a tournament and you play, I'm just going to throw out MP40 because that's where there's a division. There's actually some people there. You're playing MP40. You take last cash. You win $22 because you got last cash in MP40. With your 1010 rating, you cannot go back and play MA50 anymore. All right. You couldn't go back and play MA40 anymore either. What they're saying is if you're a professional, if you're at one point you've taken cash and you're a professional and you want to go back to playing in an amateur-based division, you can if your rating is low enough. And that's none of this is new. None of this is new whatsoever. They've implemented this years ago. I think it was an incredible change, and I think it's perfect for our sport. All they did is slightly adjust a few of the ratings caps depending on what division you're talking about. If you are a pro playing amateur. Now, this is exactly what you guys see every year. You get to AM Worlds, and all of a sudden there's some, I'll say kid, but it could be anyone, playing MA1 or it could be MJ18, and they've never taken cash, and they're rated 1010, 1020, 1008, whatever. They can play assuming they've never taken cash. Once you take cash, then you have different ratings thresholds that you have to adhere to. Again, that's the way this has been forever. And here is your perfect example. I could use myself, but I'll use Johnny V because he's on a plane and he can't argue otherwise. Johnny V, for many years, rated in the 650, 660, 670, or I'm sorry, 970, 960, 970, 950, somewhere in that neighborhood. He's taking cash at a dozen or so events. Johnny V may or may not feel competitive in MP40. And granted, where ratings now are just a few points apart. So I know you could pick this apart. But anyway, Johnny V may not feel competitive. If Johnny V with we'll just say a 940 rating goes to Pro Masters Worlds, he's flat out not going to be competitive. Just won't be. But he's still professional because he's taken cash. But with his 940 rating, he can or could in the past go back and play some MA, well, not 940. I guess it'd have to be 932. We'll use that example. If he went back with a 932 rating, he could have played in MA40, which he's done before. And that's why I use him as an example. I've never done that, but he has. So if your rating is below a certain threshold, even if you've accepted cash, you could go play it. That allows you to be competitive and still go out and play, because what happens is someone like myself or Johnny V, who maybe played a ton, accepted a little bit of cash, won some money throughout their career, and then all of a sudden your life, your priorities change, your golf game changes, all of those things. You don't necessarily want to go with your 915 rating. You don't want to go with your 915 rating and play at an event and get absolutely smashed by all the other pro masters that maybe still do this for a living, or are just really good. So you take your 915 rating in MA to MA 40, and you could compete there. That's been happening again. That's pros playing AM, and nothing has changed except for a little bit of the ratings differentials and the caps to it, but the concept is still the same. And so MA 40 is the one that changed, and it went down. So it used to be if you had a 935 or below a 935 rating, you could play MA 40. They dipped that down to 920. So you have to be sub 920 to go then play MA 40, assuming you've accepted cash. That's a lot of talking, a lot of rambling. I don't know if you're going to rewind that. I only had one misstep in there, but look it up, read it on the PDGA. I'm sure there's plenty of confusion. There really doesn't need to be. The long and short of it is, if you've never cashed, you have a ton of options to play in a lot of different divisions, whether that's pro or amateur. That's often the case if you've never cashed. If you've cashed and you're considered a professional, then you have to look at your age and look at where your current rating is. I guess that's the long and the short of it. So there were some adjustments that got made there today. I think that's it. I think that makes sense on there. I'm quickly looking at the board and seeing if there's anything on within that I may have added confusion, which I was certainly trying not to do. Survivor says, I just started DG a year ago. Love it. Thanks, Terry. You're welcome. Todd says, I was nailing that. Thanks. Hope I got that all right for you guys. JVD couldn't compete in FPO. That is correct. He could not compete there. He has not submitted the paperwork of any kind, and he is not eligible to compete in FPO. Even if his rating was 700, that doesn't matter. Finland rating is different than PDGA. I don't know how that's the case. They're all PDGA ratings. Now, are there different the calculations are the same, exact same. There's not a Finnish ratings calculator. Now there's different Finnish competitors on very different styles of courses, but there's no Finnish disc golf calculator. Todd on the board says that everything I just talked about goes into effect January 1st. What I'll also personally, and I have absolutely zero insight on this, so I'm just rambling. I'll be interested to see if there's any changes or feedback that come back in terms of our overall conversation about our transgender competitors. And we talked about that a few weeks ago. Natalie Ryan had made a post, talking about she fears that she thinks there's going to be changes and she may or may not be eligible to compete in future events. So just like we said last week, she may have some inside knowledge. There may be rumblings and or conversations taking place. If there are any of those, I will just tell you bluntly, I know nothing of any potential outcomes or conversations. I have not been informed or sworn to any secrecy. I truly know nothing. I have no problem admitting pure ignorance on that front. So I'm just as curious as you guys are to see if there is anything, and if there are changes, when they may or may not take effect. I think that would be the conversation that would also then be had if any changes happen. The title is confusing. I was hoping there were going to be rating caps regardless of professional status. Ratings cap regardless of professional status. I'm confused what you mean by that, Bob Koike. I was hoping there were going to be a rating cap regardless of professional. No. Again, if you're rated, I'll use myself as an example. I think I'm 940 or 50, whatever I am. My rating, and I've played MPO and MP40 this year. I've cashed 20 years ago. I'm a professional. I could not go compete in MA40. I couldn't today when the ratings cap is 935, and I certainly can't then next year when the ratings cap in that case dips down to 920. I am not eligible to compete in MA40. I personally could not go play amateur 40 and above. I'm just not eligible. Now, I probably am eligible without me looking to go compete in what would be MA1 with my 940 rating. I'm likely eligible to go compete there if I wanted to. But I would not be eligible to compete in MA40 now or next year. All right. Does it make sense to merge MPO and FPO and just play ratings brackets, which include men, women, trans, whoever? It does, but it doesn't. I don't think that's the answer. Personally, Ed, that's all I'm speaking from. I understand what you're saying. Yeah. Short answer is I just don't think it does. I understand it would address some issues, and it would, but overall, and I don't see that. I don't see that as the case in a lot of other professional sports where they just merge. A 968 rated woman is essentially the exact same as a 968 rated man. So I understand that when it comes down to the, those nuts and bolts and those details. So could they play against each other? Yeah. And in some events they have ratings based events, and I'm all in favor of that happening for one-off events. But when you're talking about our biggest events, you're talking our elite series, our majors, so on and so forth. I think we need to continue to have, an MPO and FPO distinctions that need to take place. That's just me personally. Yes, don't forget to click subscribe. Mary Tiller. Is there really a Mary Tiller to PDGA 250988? That's what Schwebby always calls me instead of Terry Miller. Disc golf metrics is different. Sure. If you're talking about the European based live scoring and registration service that's called Disc Golf Metrics, is it structured, designed, built, and programmed differently? Yes. You are right on that, David. You're right. Are TDs supposed to enforce this? I'm not sure what you're talking about, but again, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone. First of all, it's the responsibility of the player, first and foremost. And here's a great example. I am next year. We'll use this example. Let's just say, pretend that right now, Johnny V, I keep picking on him, is rated 921. Well, he's not, but let's say he is. As a professional, he's rated 921. He can play MA40 right now if he wants. 935 is the threshold. He can play MA40 if he wants. He can play MP40, but he can also play MA40 if he so chooses at 921 rating. Right now. Next year, as of January 1st, he goes to sign up for a tournament. First of all, Disc Golf Scene and or the back end of the PDGA gives you a little alert. But second of all, let's just say he can get through all that, or he mails in a check and gets registered, and he signs up for MA40. He's rated 921. He signs up for MA40. It is absolutely his fault, for starters, because you need to know what division you're eligible for. So the initial onus is on him. And then, yes, the TD, especially in a sanctioned event, should get a little alert. There's a back end section on your TD, your TD web thing, Tournament Central, I guess it's called, and it gives you a little alert, and it'll put in red his PDGA number, his rating, or something. It puts it and it will alert you as a TD, and it'll be like, whoa, there's a problem with this Yahoo. This Johnny V fella, PDGA 14324, is not eligible. It will alert you, but don't rely on that. It is absolutely, just like anything else in life, I feel like it is absolutely first and foremost on the competitor themselves to know what division they're eligible for. There should be checks. there should be balances and there should be TDs and other things in place to make sure to double check that, but you can't misrepresent yourself. You need to only sign up and try to compete in divisions you are eligible for. That's my take. If somebody wants to argue otherwise, they can, but I feel like even if you squeak by, I've seen this and I hate it. I hate somebody that has signed up for an event. Maybe they go perform well. Maybe they win. Something or other happened. It somehow went unnoticed. Somehow, now with technology, this is getting easier and it kind of jumps off of a page more. But back in the day, somebody could slip by and all of a sudden you didn't realize that someone's rating was too high or whatever the case is. And then they win. That, first of all, that nullifies, the competitiveness from the weekend. And I think you can get probably suspended or on probation. Like, you need to be responsible for the division in which you're eligible first and foremost. And then hopefully, if there's any other checks and balances that need to happen, they catch it and need to enforce it, of course, but it's on the player. Ryan says, I like when people put in someone else's PDGA number to try and avoid the non-PDGA fee. I don't know. Some people do some crazy things. I don't want to just say stop being cheap, but don't do shady things that are just going to create more headache and more drama and more challenge for literally 4, 5, 6, 8 other people because you're trying to skirt the system. I think that's a pretty and Todd on the board says, will at least get retroactively DQ'd and removed from the event for my last example. So you sign up for an event, you're not eligible, you go on and win the event. You win it in a playoff, a 9-hole playoff, and you're crowned champion, or you won it by 20 and you went home before the awards even happened. Either way, you should get disqualified from the event. That's the minimum that will happen, is you'll get disqualified and everything will be negated. So don't do that. I mean, that's just stupid. David John, I'm just going to say this because Johnny V is pretty close to banning you, and he's not here tonight. So I'm just going to quickly take a little sidetrack. Your random conversations about, I'm going to say lady boys, as you've put it, just 100% not needed or in any way relevant to our conversation. Now, I know things get sideways here on the board. I know they do, and not everything is pertinent. But the random stuff that you want to insert here is just short of ban worthy because it's so useless. So stop doing that. All right. That's like my most polite warning. Just don't do that. All right. Is that the good way to end the regular show? Yes. As everyone says, keep, just ban them already. I mean, if you we're in the court of public opinion here, it would have happened. So let's move on. I think that's about all I got for the regular show, though, guys. I don't have any Johnny V banter. Really, Johnny? How was your trip to Florida? It was fine. Okay. Well, it's 70 here in Wisconsin. Like, it's been ridiculous. The last few days, I actually played a glow round of golf yesterday, had a good time with some good buddies, and it's been absolutely ridiculously gorgeous here at least in the Midwest, and I think it's going to keep rolling for a few more days. So maybe I'll get out and play a little bit more golf myself. But for now, I'm going to close it down and end the regular show. I want to thank Luke for joining. He's been like I said, I know I use the word infectious, but clearly his spirit, his zest, and his hard work, dedication, all of that stuff. I mean, talk about an inspiration and a role model that when you are sitting at home wondering, is disc golf for you? And it may or may not be, but wondering, man, if I put in some work, when do I get my break? Will I ever have that big weekend? This could be the catalyst. This could, kick him off to an insane 2023. Or maybe he follows up his 2022 efforts, but either way, that he's grinding and he's working hard for it, which I think is just beautiful to see. So thank you to Luke Samson for joining again. Congrats to Macy Valadias for taking it down. Those two are officially leading the Disc Golf Pro Tour for the 2023 season. I'm not going to go out and find the ratings, or I'm sorry, the standings and charts, but I can tell you right now, that they're already leading the 2023 season. So that's got to feel good, knowing that depending how they do at the next Silver Series event at New World in a couple of weeks, they're going to be contenders as the flips into the new year. And I don't care who you are, that's got to be exciting, regardless. All right, guys, here's how it's going to work. I am going to very briefly shut down the regular show. I'm going to stand down for probably 30 or 60 seconds, where you're just going to see a screen pop up with the thumbnail on it. And then I'll come right back, open up with the after show. That's where I'll interact more with what I see on the chat board. As you see me always constantly looking that way, I'll see what's on the chat board, answer some questions. Maybe I've got some other random topics. Maybe you guys have things to remind me of to talk about, but that's what will happen in the after show. And then shortly after that, we'll call it a night. No promises how this goes, but I'm Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy. That has been podcast 427. Luke Samson, your champion down at Lake Marshall, along with Macy Valadiaz. Congrats to both of them. Thank you guys for joining. And I think, stick around. I'll have an after show, and we'll see what happens from there. We'll see you then. We step inside the SmashBoxx. Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV's podcast 427's After Show. Sound effects, next level for you guys. Welcome in, everyone. Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy. I've often wondered, and I don't watch any of them, so maybe I could quit wondering and just go get my answers. But I've often wondered about the people that stream daily, and is it just entirely different because they're playing a game the whole time and they're largely focused on that? Dust, you're out on the board. You could tell me. Is that exactly? Is it? I don't want to say is it easier, but if you're just focused on a game, or do other people just Twitch or live stream and have random streams of consciousness for hours and hours on end? I don't know, but good, bad, or otherwise, I'm finding myself doing it more. So welcome in, everyone. Again, this is the after show. Johnny V is not here tonight. So we have a SmashBoxx exclusive. No Johnny V. He is currently on a plane. And even as disc golf rich as he might be, he is not streaming in or joining us from said plane. So here in the after show, if you're new here somehow, welcome. And in the after show, we largely play off of notes and chats that are coming in off the chat board. If there's subjects, topics, things you want me to discuss, could be disc golf or non-disc golf related, I'm more than happy to do so. So as I look up above at the chat board, I'm going to scroll down just a little bit and see what we've seen out here. 90 and muggy in Miami. That sounds miserable. Johnny V was again down in Florida for the last couple of days. Some people talking about the nice weather that's been happening in your neck of the woods, or here in Wisconsin. It has been absolutely gorgeous. Real quick, speaking of Wisconsin, next week, as in the 12th. Excuse me, let me pull it up. Just to confirm, the 12th. The 12th is the day I will be in Phoenix, Arizona for the PLO, the Phoenix Ladies Open. Super excited to be part of that. However, going on here in the Milwaukee area will be a fundraiser event. And some of you may have seen even today. Also, Ledgestone had made a post. They're doing fundraising for a local gentleman, local to the Milwaukee area, who has been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And not only is Ledgestone was doing a fundraiser today, and I want to go ahead and see if I can find it here for you, just so I can get it all right. But not only is he doing that, but then next week there's an event here in the Milwaukee area, temporary course at this really beautiful facility called Tremborn Farms. We had an event there last year just before USDGC. It was a really good time, and there'll be 9 or 10 holes that will be set up. I want to say the entry fee is like $10. So you should probably come to the Milwaukee area and get signed up and play. Here it is. And I'm going to use specifically what I just saw from Ledgestone. They said Peter Green, one of our marketing team members, was diagnosed with lymphoma shortly after returning home from the Ledgestone Open this year. To help him fund his treatment, we've released 50 of his limited edition Happy to Be Here buzzes. The swirls are incredible on these. Available now, Ledgestone Open. So by all means, please go out and support those if you can. And then, as I mentioned, and if I can find the link, I'll even put it in my, here's a link. I'm going to put that in there right now on Instagram, but also I'd like to put up a link here locally. If you just give me a moment, I'd like to find this event. And I know that registrations are continuing to pour in, but I believe there's plenty of room, and it's out on Disc Golf Scene, which I know you guys are all familiar with. The Peter Green Fall fundraiser on Disc Golf Scene currently shows about 70 out of 120 potential people, and I know we could take that. So I've put that in the chat as well. Somebody remind me later. I want to put it in the show notes in the actual description of this podcast here tonight. So that's happening. Please make sure you go out and consider coming to Milwaukee for the day. Super fun course, temp course, vendors, Disc Golf Guy merch will be there along with a bunch of other merchandisers and vendors and whatnot. Similar to what we're going to see this weekend, the Delis is taking place. I'm super excited about it. Heading down to the Chicagoland area where they've invited me to join them, and they rent out a theater and have some annual awards that they've been doing for the last few years. I've seen Philo and other special guests that were there in years past. This year, they've invited me to join. So I'll have some DG Guy merchandise and be taking it all in as well. Also looking to join them on their podcast and do a podcast recording while I'm down there. So looking forward to that. I believe there's still spots. There might be a few spots still available for that as well, but very much looking forward to it. All right, that's very Midwest local here for you guys in this area. You should check out Tyler Brickley's Twitch if you're going to get into gaming and also fun nonsense. I don't like that guy. If I say that too loud, he's going to show up on my feed, but I do love him. I only watch artists on Twitch. I guess, yeah, that makes perfect sense, Tim. I think you've told me that. Like to sit and watch somebody how they design or sketch or do something rather than have a recorded time lapse to actually watch somebody do stuff in real time. I could see how that could be amazing. That's awesome. Ray says, do you do an interview for the docu-series after each event in 2022? It seems like they're structuring it event by event as the season unfolded. I personally do not. And I'm going to be blunt and just say I don't know a ton about the docu-series other than that it exists and that it looks amazing. The little bits I've seen, I was at the World Championships. I was interviewed for some things that had taken place up until that point. And then I know after the USDGC, they were hoping to have me do some stuff, but I wasn't around for it. And so, because I had to get out to Bend for then the tour championship. So I was interviewed for stuff. I have no idea if anything I said or my ugly mug made any of the cuts. No idea. Short answer is that I don't know. But there was not a concerted effort by me to sit down after every given event. Now, what Dustin and Corey largely worked on that, along with Bluefoot Entertainment, and a whole slew of people. So I'm super excited to see what's going to happen with that. I know a local gentleman, John, had done some of the audio mixing. Looking forward to it all. And even with that being said, I didn't watch yesterday's yet. Well, the one that released yesterday. But I am excited. I want to save that for I'm not the type that's going to sit down and necessarily just throw it on while I'm sitting here at home. I'm more likely to download it and then play it on my next plane ride, because I feel like that's the best use of my time when I'm in a plane, because usually computing is a challenge. Not just because my stomach is big, but because the tables are small and I don't have power. Okay, whew. More than you needed to know. I spot a little guy. Hey, Aaron, hope you're well. Aaron, I think, reached out earlier asking about some of the Asiana type events. I think that's what you had said. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the potential of being over in Koh Samui, Thailand. I know they're working on a couple events, and it sounds like some pros are talking about being there as well. Did the show start on DGN? Not sure what it's called. I think you're talking about the docuseries, and I think the first one was yesterday, which I did not get a chance to watch. I just said that. Terry needs to do a series of digging through storage where he digs through his unit and shows off awesome discs. There's already a full thought out process there, and I think it would go something like this. And unfortunately I keep talking about it, so that means I'll never do it. The long and short of it, though, is what I could see doing as a series essentially is pulling in a bin or two, grabbing a bin, placing it in front of me, and then going through the discs. Now, some of those are going to be incredibly enlightening because there might be 30 different discs in there that came from 22 different places. And maybe or maybe not, I have some either story or tale to it. Maybe not. Depends on how much I mix them up. I purposely kind of keep them all mixed up. Very unorganized. However, there's also going to be a bin, and maybe those get skipped and or those get quickly referenced and then moved on to another one, and we do a bonus one where you pull it out and it'll be like, oh, this bin holds 37 drivers. Oh, and you have 32 Proto Star Stamp Leopard 3s in here. Actually, I'd probably have 25 because that was probably the limit. You have 25 Proto Star Stamped Champion Leopard 3s here, or Champion Thunderbirds, whatever. Something that I essentially got and then just plopped right into a bin. And then there's 5 other random discs, and maybe there's 5 putters that were in there as well. That bin's pretty boring. There's going to be plenty of those, even though every one of those discs are probably going to be worth a little more than retail, at least. So it's kind of the variety of the bins. And now I try not to mix up decades, for instance. I shouldn't have a 2005 set of tournament stamp discs in with a 2015 set of tournament discs. Or you're not going to have 2005 discs mixed in with last week's, Halo release by Innova, or, the Halloween Buzz release by Discraft. They won't be that mixed up, but there might be some 2005 with some 2006 with maybe a couple 2007. That's possible, but they're generally going to be kind of an era of sorts, if that. Anyway, and then to show you and talk about them. Some people like that. Plenty of people won't. Someday. I just got a disc yesterday that made me think of Terry. Okay, we could go a lot of ways with that. I do have an update on something else pretty funny in a minute. Arthur says I muted Terry for a bit. Sounds good. I don't know why. Yes, this is the after show, Arthur. Chainbanger says, I played in the same tournament as Harold Duvall this past weekend, and it was great watching him shred. That's awesome. I didn't honestly know that Harold played. I don't know if I'd be curious to know if that was just a unsanctioned doubles. I'm guessing like an unsanctioned Halloween doubles event, or was that like a hardcore PDGA B tier locally? Either way, that's awesome to see that you got to see him play a world champ. I think plenty of people forget that he's a world champion, and yeah, pretty cool. Clearly not the skills today that he had in 1983, but nonetheless, you got to respect the world champ. Seems you did a long interview wrapping up the season, and they worked your answers in over the whole series. I think that sounds about right for some of the things we talked about at Worlds. Terry, do you have your current stock of discs listed? Nope. If you go to shop.thediscgolfguy.com, that's a great way to support me. I never plug it, unfortunately. I always forget to. But if you go to shop.thediscgolfguy.com, that's where I have current, I don't want to say standard, but that's where I have current merchandise. But you're not going to find a 1998 Whip It in there, and you're not going to find a 2007 USDGC Rock listed on there. I might have 50 of them, but you won't find it listed for sale there. That's more current inventory. A lot of people have graciously said, hey, how can we support you? And or do you have some of your inventory online? And that's where the standard inventory is, along with a few extra goodies. So try that. Shop the disc.com. Really good at promoting this, clearly. Iron Samurai 4s are going to be on there tomorrow. All right, let's keep reading here. Beautiful weather in Texas, no surprise. It will be yes, the docuseries, there you go. Thanks, Ray. Says it will be out each Monday for 6 weeks. So plenty of content. That brings us all the way into the middle of December. Next thing you know, we're starting up the All-Stars in February? Love it. Terry, what's your go-to glow disc? I participated in my first space race on Saturday and I had a blast. I mean, I used to throw a lot of glow Ontario rocks. I don't glow disc nearly as much. This is another conversation. That sounds like a great drop zone episode. Glow has just changed throughout the years. We back in my day, you only had glow discs. Like if a disc glowed, you specifically had it for playing glow, and maybe you threw it during the season, but you also would save it so that it glowed for playing glow. And we used to use flashlights, which worked okay. And then really the fanciest thing we did for a long time is you'd get a separate flash, that like an attachment flash, a detachable flash that usually goes with your cameras, your fancy cameras, and you'd flash a disc. It was so intense and so bright, and it blinded everybody, and it sucked, but it was so intense and bright. That was one way. And then people made boxes for it, made all these clever ways to go about it. And then enter in a few years later, little lights became more popular. Little bobber lights that I used to sell became popular. Then eventually now glow tape, of whether it's duct tape or a regular glow tape of some sort. I feel like that's the way to go, depending on where you're playing. I feel like it alters your disc the least, and it is relatively easy to attach and to reuse or detach and use, and or just using a straight up glow disc. And we talked about it earlier that Castoplast is kind of famous for the amount of glow and how well their discs glow. But that and a handheld blacklight of sorts, and those again, I cannot stress to you enough. A handheld blacklight was right next to like a printer in terms of how revolutionary it was at one point. An affordable handheld battery operated mini blacklight, which is no big deal. And you take 100% for granted today. At one point, those were, as they say, the cat's pajamas. So it's the evolution of glow and of glow disc golf has been insane for the last few years. You guys just don't know how good you got it. Do I have to insert get off my lawn at some point? All right. Zach said, last glow round, I used some glow tape, which has been able to use my regular disc and not have them rely on glow disc, which I'm not used to. That makes sense. You fly me there or want to ban me. That makes no sense, David. they made it seem like you interviewed right after LVC. Yep, we talked about that. Sorry. Terry, you need a virtual assistant. I need a lot of things. I worry that I don't have an assistant or a virtual assistant because I feel like, and I'm sure everybody feels this way, to some degree, you feel like you'd micromanage it to where it's like, okay, let me just get this done myself. But maybe someday. I'd like to get to a point where I absolutely need to and can pay a virtual assistant of some kind. That should be a goal. MPO's Mix Pro Open. Good, David John. You got it. When do you break ground on the Disc Golf Guide Museum? I honestly, I've said this. If I had, I don't want to say an endless supply of money. If there was a grant, or if there was a way to do this, and I'm not even joking, I would turn most of my belongings and put them in some form of a museum-like atmosphere where they can be enjoyed and seen. When I've got magazines from the 90s and I've got discs, there's a million discs that could be put on walls for lots of reasons. It's the other cool stuff I have. It's the 2008 Japan Open caddy bib. It's or the jacket that they gave with us to that, or things that I either bought or earned or won or whatever on that event. And that was just 2008, and that's just Japan. But I could show you the player guide from the 1998 Amateur World Championships. Like, I could show you that physical player guide, or I could show you the spiral bound PDGA course directory, before UDisc and MapQuest and Yahoo Maps. There's so many of those cool things that I'd love for people to be able to just see that may or may not have a ton of value, actual dollar value, but I legitimately could. I feel like, because I'm such a hoarder, I could legitimately get absolutely get a museum and fill a museum. Well, depending on your size, but I mean, I could have a disc golf museum if there was ever the land or the space or the means to do so, without it just being a total, 10 or 20 or $50,000 money suck every year or whatever. I would do it in a heartbeat, because that's where it should all be, and I don't know what else to do with it all. But I'm not getting rid of it. All right, you guys, again, pointless other random conversation I'm going to skip. Chainbanger says it was the C-tier Boyd Hill Blazer. So yeah, playing over at Boyd Hill. Awesome to see. Mike Janice, super chats. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Common concerns about VAs, virtual assistant. Think of someone who will do your sticky note tasks so you can focus more on important things. I'll email you. I appreciate that, Mike. Thank you. Terry, are you attending the New World Silver event on the 11th? I am not. I mentioned a little bit earlier, next weekend's insanely busy. Not this weekend, but next. The New World Silver Series is taking place, which unfortunately will be on like my third back burner, only because I'll be in Phoenix filming the PLO. There'll be a local event as a fundraiser, which will have vending and opportunities there at a local event here in Milwaukee. And on top of that, I believe I have two of my cameramen heading out to Oregon to cover an event, because I couldn't go to that. So yeah, next weekend, unfortunately, is a no-go for me. Yeah, in terms of the New World Silver Series event. Yeah, they also did mention it today. Thank you. Somebody else who just said that. They mentioned today that there's a few more Silver Series that were added. You can find all that information on dgpt.com. Go out there and check it out. Yeah, they added a couple more. Castoplast and MVP is number one. We're talking again about glow. I've heard that consistently throughout. I don't think that's much of a secret anymore, that Castoplast and MVP are often referred to as your two best glowing plastic materials. Why don't you have that hat on the site, Zach? That's a great question. And guess what? Check back in a few days, because this is a prototype. This is a one of one only ever designed and exists right now. for a few more days. And then there's going to be a plethora of various ones that will be listed on the site. I appreciate the heck out of you asking. You are not the only person to ask, and I'm flattered by the people that have seemingly loved it. I've been asked quite a few times. I have seen some additional ones, the quote unquote first runs that have been made now, and there's even more being made as we speak. So, and they're going to be all sorts of color combos. I'm not going to say everyone's completely unique, but I bought a ton of different colors, and then I'll put a bunch of different colors. Some will be two-tone, some will be three-tone. Yes, they'll be up. They're coming, I promise. Thank you. Bright yellow discs light up the ground with flashlights. That's a good call. I'd watch a show of Terry interacting with Clippy. You have to be old enough to get that reference. Clippy is the little assistant that helped you out on MS Word. Well, back in the day, it wasn't MS Word, it was Microsoft Word, or sometimes just referred to as Word. But yeah, good old Clippy. Uh, I made my order on the shop, Dust says. Aw, Dust. Appreciate it, buddy. Thank you. The Brody Smithsonian. Congrats, Brody. Also, that was not necessarily one I read off because it wasn't highlighted as an A tier. But Brody Smith, I do believe, won this in Las Vegas this weekend. Congrats to him. I think he won it handedly by a few strokes. So congrats to him. And then also I did Jen Allen. Jen Allen won by a lot. Per ratings, it was about where she should have actually placed, but Jen Allen also won this weekend. Sad I couldn't be out there, but at the same time, it feels good to be getting some stuff done at home. I'll get back out to Vegas. Don't you guys worry. Vegas likes me. All right. What's your opinion of the 2023 Silver Series events taking place already? It is odd, but it's a wraparound season. It's worth trying. It doesn't feel weird a little bit. You know, we're getting started, and then you think, well, what's in a calendar year? And let's just face it, we have so many opportunities. There's so much good high level golf. People want to be on the Silver Series. People want to be on the Elite Series. People want to be freaking plus series events and playoff events. Guys, I can't say it enough. The getting's good right now. We've come a long way. Luke, yep, is your points leader. Talked about that. FlyingDiscMuseum.com, as Tom McManus says. Definitely check that out. If you want a virtual museum of some of the coolest stuff in the world, I have a ton of discs pictured on there, but that's usually just because they're cool stamps. Tom McManus has graciously taken those pictures. Guys, you could get lost in FlyingDiscMuseum.com for hours, and you should. It's very cool because it's curated and has then hundreds maybe of people from around the world that are contributors to it. And then there's various tags, metadata to each of them. So if you want to search for different things, you can, and how they're categorized. FlyingDiscMuseum.com. Good plug. I appreciate that, Tom. Good call. Sounds like something that will be in the Cold Turkeys Players Pack. I'm not sure what you were referring to, but it's going to be a good one. I promise you guys that. On XP, Clippy was far more ubiquitous across multiple programs if you needed help. Good to know. Take a breather, Nightbot. Yeah, Nightbot's been a little bit aggressive lately. I'm gonna have to see what Johnny needs to do. Terry, say one thing and mean another. I again don't know what you're talking about. All right. What's the event in Oregon? There's a doubles event, David Stanley, and it is certainly worth putting a little plug out there. It is a doubles event, and Jeff Corns had reached out to me and talked about getting coverage for it, and I'm super happy to be part of it. There's some other coverage that I still have yet to assemble and release. Now's the time. It's going to be coming out. But let me find. Is this the let me find it for you guys. It is the 2022 Resistance Disc Open presented by Squatch. 3,000 added cash for this B tier. And it is a PDGA event. And I'm going to put it also in the comments. There you go. And it's understandably got some pretty solid players. Scott Withers, Chris Nelson, Cole Rodolin, Justin Anderson, so on and so forth. Cameron Messerschmidt I see on there. A bunch of really good players that we've seen throughout the year. Some more local, some more on the larger scene. And yeah, looking forward to it. Should be a really good weekend. So eventually we're going to have coverage of that. I think those. Oh, Ryan was suggesting putting those hats in the players' packs. Ah, come on, Ryan. These are all handmade. These are one-offs. I've already given away players' packs that have had a disc golf guy towel in them, on them, whatever, in the player pack, and then it had individual personalized names, and those were all hand done. That might not happen again. It's been yeah, there's a lot of work to that. I don't know if we have anything else. Johnny V normally would do a giveaway, and I don't have any of the stuff to do that. I have stuff to give away, and I have stuff to mail out. So that part's easy, but we'll have to do double up on the giveaway next week, where Johnny's got all the Patreon supporters and partners and whatnot. So we'll double up next week and make sure that we get 2 of them to you. I know Dan last week won some beef jerky. Big shout out to Double G and the crew over there. I think we're going to see some Double G beef jerky again in the players pack for the cold turkey. I do like that idea. So unless you guys have anything else, Paul Macbeth trophies in the player pack. I don't have enough of those, but it would be pretty funny. WT4 says, are they embroidered? No, these hats are not. It's a long story about the process, but they are permanently on there. But they're not embroidered. It gives us a little bit more flexibility. Slower process, but more flexibility, and I love it. I'd like to think I have a cool flying disc on the other side of that hat on the logo. Oh, I mean, that's an idea. I do love how subtle this has been, and for our audio viewers or listeners, I am just talking about. I'm wearing a black trucker style hat that has just a little black disc golf guy silhouette on a white brim. What is that? Panel? Anyway. If a player's pack doesn't include a Zuka cart and 10 discs, is it worth it? If you're that disc golf rich going to those big events, then yeah, you're right. My C tier in a few weeks, which is nearly sold out. We're just doing some waiting list things with women and masters divisions. I think the entry fee is like $45, and I'm thinking the retail value will be somewhere around 70, 75, maybe $80-ish, maybe more. Usually it is. There will not be an additional payout to that in terms of any merchandise, but there'll be a flex start going on as well that people can play on another course right there, and then also an absurd players pack. So hope you like it. Do you think MA40 player rating drop thing that the players are pros, blah, 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 amped to start to drop off interest and begin to wane compliments to start to mess around? It's a lot. No, the short answer is I don't think so. It says, do you think the MA40 player rating drop, where they've dropped the threshold from 935 down to 920, it was the only one that was dropped, that players that are pros playing AM will start to drop off and interest will begin to wane and complaints will start to muster up. Now let's really hone in on that for a moment. There are some players that I can guarantee you, and I'm sure somebody runs some smart stats people at the PDGA would have to do this. There are absolutely some players that have been at 931 for like the last 3 years and have been playing MA40 as a pro, playing amateur, but playing with their 931 rating and have then therefore been legally allowed to play in that division. Absolutely, there are some that have been just in that. Now, if you're talking about the people that are in that 920 to 934 category, first of all, I don't know how many people that is right now, and that's changing with every ratings update. Second of all, I don't want to say too bad, so sad, but it's a divisional rule change that is applied across the board. the PDGA is looking at divisional breaks, and they didn't just arbitrarily pick 920. And I think that will probably get lost, because if you're 925 and you've been 925 for the last 5 years, you're just so consistent at 925, and that's where you've been playing. And all of a sudden, the PDGA came out today and said, you know what? 925er, you accepted cash 5 years ago. You shoot 925 golf. You've been playing MA40 for the last 5 years. Guess what? You're not eligible to play there anymore. For that tiny subset of people, is it bad luck for you? Sure. Get better or get worse. It's what I would say to that. It's such a tiny subset of people, I'm sure. And, no more or less than many years ago, post 1998, but I don't know what year they did it. I know it was after 98. Forever, when I came into disc golf, back when I was a kid, Masters used to be 35. Pro Masters started at 35. Again, you have to be old school to remember this, but Masters used to start at 35, not 40. And at one point, after lots of feedback and analysis and others, people way above my pay grade that are way smarter and volunteer harder, they said, hey, we're bumping everything up to 940. I'm sorry, to 40, to 50, to 60, to 70. That's how they made their divisional breaks. Then they came back a few years after that and said, well, starting at 50, we're going to add in a 55 break and a 65 break and a 75 break. Good with all of that. Did it suck if you were 34 and that next year you're like, yes, I'm done competing against Barry Schultz and Ken Climo. They're too good. This sucks. I'm out of here. I can't wait to get into Masters. And then the next year they said, nope, sorry, we're raising the age to 40. That's exactly what they did. And guess what? Sometimes life isn't fair. And if your mother or father didn't convince you as much, then they did a poor job. Nobody promises life is going to be fair. Sometimes things like that just happen. Sometimes you're going to be on the short end of it. You've caught enough breaks in your life that it probably evens out. And if you haven't, then you're just a terrible person. I think that's karma. No, but seriously. Yeah, so I may have beat that one to death, but yes. There will be a little there's going to be those people that fall in that very small window, I think, of 14 points, and they might be a little frustrated. And I feel bad for them, but there's bigger problems in life. Let's be real. If MA40 as a 929 rated player, MA40 is your end all be all to your existence, I want you to be proud. I want you to love what you do. I want you to fully embrace it. Go all in. But if that's all that's to your existence, you're selling yourself a little short still. That makes sense? Question was asked because tournaments seem to fill really fast these days, and pros playing AN end up playing AM because the filling of the tournament so quick. As long as they legally can do it, I don't care. As long as you're playing by all the rules in front of you. Just like when there's small divisions. I say it all the time. You can only beat the people that show up. Does a win, an uncontested win, or a win against one or two people in your division feel as good? Probably not. You'd rather win, though, than not. And you can only beat the people that show up. Someone designed a guardrail and a car approaching on the right with a disc yanked out of bounds. The Disc Golf Guy's logo right hand at it. Perfect. WTF, Richard Homage. No, I don't want to be associated with any cars, guardrails, or accidents. Luke Samson is not the GOAT. He is a very, very amazing human. I don't know about the greatest of all time. He's an amazing human, though. He might be the greatest of all time at something, but that's not yet disc golf. It's got a long ways to go. Rating is BS. That's fine. Minnesota gives funny money. Charlotte is different. Everywhere's a little bit different. Spock says, philosophical moment. If we all stop pretending that money is real, we'd really find out who does what out of love and not just for money. Yeah, there's something beautiful in that statement. There's also something to be said about love and money and such can only go so far too. Love for the game doesn't put gas in your tank necessarily. But if you did everything out of love, yeah, we again very philosophical. We could go off on a whole nother tangent. You're out, smashies, daddy disc golf. I think with that, I'm gonna be out. I'm gonna say thank you. This is gonna be on the shorter side. I'm okay with that. To be quite honest, I don't feel 100% right now, so we'll keep it on the shorter side. That's some random ramblings by me in the after show. I do thank all of you for jumping in and supporting and watching. Hopefully you'll all recover from Johnny V not being here tonight. We'll find a way to get through. We'll work through this together. But I hope Johnny V's travels were safe and sound and everything worked out. I very much appreciate Luke for joining in the regular show, and then all you guys for coming along and having some fun with us tonight. Look forward to all those events coming up, whether it's events I'm covering or my crew is covering, or it's a fundraiser because I'm out of town and there's still a fundraiser going on locally. Those are all great opportunities. Cold turkey at the end of the month. Really looking forward to that. I've got a drop zone or two conversation piece that can be held with regard to that in the next few days. You'll probably see that. But just thank you guys as always. It's next week. Who knows who we'll have? Probably some winner of something. I'm gonna go do just that. Do some hydrating. Thank you guys, all of you, for tuning in from literally all over the world. I can't say enough how much we appreciate it, whether it's the video version or the audio version. I'm Terry Miller, the disc golf guy. If I find the right button, I can close out maybe even somewhat smooth. This has been Podcast 427's After Show. Thanks for stepping inside the Smashbox, and we'll see you next week. Bye. And now exiting, Terry Miller, the disc golf guy. This has been Podcast 427. I don't have anything else. Good night.